Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the meditation, Reverend Warren. My message today is titled, I Am That I Am. Not that you've not ever heard that before, but how this actually evolved was because I saw on the back of a car, believe it or not, in the car pickup line to pick up the boys from school, on the back of the car was these words, Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya. And then it said Exodus 3:14. And I thought, okay, I wonder what the deal is with that. And so I looked up Exodus 3:14, which says, I am that I am. And that's what God said to Moses at the burning bush. But then I decided I needed to look up the, first I looked up the Bible quote, and this is what it said. God replied to Moses, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you, saying that Moses was sent by God. Well, then I decided I needed to look up those words, okay? The Aha, Ashar, Ahaya. That's what it is. Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya. Say that fast 10 times. Nope. Anyway, and it said, I am that I am, the only name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, given unto Moses himself in Exodus 3:13 through 15. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, well, gosh, I wonder why we don't call God I am, or why we don't call God Ahaya, because those were the original names, supposedly. Of course, you all know, maybe you don't, but, you can go a lot deeper into this whole thing, which is exactly what happened to me when I started researching. And I already knew some of the other names for God, but in the PaleoHebrewDictionary.com, they say this. The word Ahaya means I create existence. I love that. And is the first person proper name of the Allah of the Paleo-Hebrew language or the original language. So, Ahaya actually was one of the first written down words for God. But I love the idea of I create existence. Isn't that cool? Yeah. And again, why aren't we using that name? And we know that there is a plethora of names out there. So that's what kind of got me sparked on putting together this message was the idea is that if we have all these names for God, then no wonder we can't define God or we can't figure out how to all get along with the same God in all religions or denominations even. It makes a whole lot of sense once you do that. But it starts getting a little cray-cray when you start trying to look and see how many names of God. Because some people will say there's only 3 names of God. Other people will say, believe it or not, between 31 and 1,000 names for God. Depending on, in the Bible, this is in the Bible, depending on what words you use that are attached to God. And this chart was made between 1652 and 1654. And this has all these different names from the Bible of God. And it's quite elaborate. It took them 2 years to put this together, believe it or not, back then. And so then I said, when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder nobody knows what to call God. And no wonder we can't agree on God. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like overwhelming. Of course, a lot of people will say that God is a lot of different things. From Wikipedia, it says, in addition to the personal name of God, and everybody's seen this before, the YHWH, but it's pronounced with vocalizations Yahweh or Jehovah, and that's what most people say. Titles of God used by Christians include the Hebrew titles Elohim, El Shaddai, Adonai, as well as Ancient of Days, believe it or not, that's one of the names, Father or Abba, which is Hebrew, and Most High. Take a breath, right? Wow. We've got all these names going, and you're probably wondering why I'm teaching this Bible class right now, but no, I just want to get to the idea of the many names for God and how confused we can all get when defining what we believe in. But Elohim means the living God, and El Shaddai means God Almighty, and Adonai means Lord. And once you kind of know that, then you can kind of understand better. And of course, a lot of people take from the New Testament the idea that Lord is referring to Jesus, but we know in the Bible itself, Lord, it means God. It's another word for God. So, And my intention really is to try to get us to understand how the wave of knowledge about our, spiritual being that we call God can be defined in so many different ways by so many different people. And we have to kind of open up to the idea that the way we perceive God or think about God is not going to be like anybody else's. It's not even going to be the same to the people sitting right next to you. But the amazing thing about doing all this study to me was the fact that, you can't really define God. You really can't, because however you try to define, there's always more to it, right? And in fact, in Hebrew, you're not to speak the YHWH, which is pronounced Yehovah, out loud, because they felt they may prevent further revelation from God. So they didn't want anybody speaking that word once they defined it. Once they called God that, it was like, no. And like we say Yahweh for those 4 letters, but that's actually not correct. That's how we say it, to where we're not disrespecting the Hebrew belief system. There was also the idea that the commandment was not to use the Lord's name in vain. So that was another reason why rabbis said, no, you can't use those letters. You can't use those sounds. You cannot say Yehovah. But however, what we must understand is that Yehovah, or that I create existence, I like to say, also known as Yahweh, is more than a name. It is an experience. That's why your God might not be the same definition as my God. And we can go throughout the whole world with that, can't we? Because how you experience God is your experience. And that's where we have to get to. That's where we have to realize whatever we're feeling, however we define God, is our experience. And we want to strive to make that experience better, right? To make it go deeper and broader and wider and more expansive than where we are right now. That feeling, though, is always difficult to explain in words. We have a hard time. I think that's why, you can say there's 1,000 names for God in the Bible, because people had a hard time putting words to what they were experiencing, what they were feeling. And I think every one of us probably feel that way too. Reverend Warren and I, the last couple Sundays, have spoken about some of those spiritual experiences that you have, that you're having a spiritual experience, but you don't know how to explain it. And the book I'm reading by Dr. Sue Morter, she mentions that too. And I know Bill shares the near-death experiences, and the people in those try to explain their experience that they had in that spiritual moment, or that experience with God or heaven or spirits or whatever it was. And a lot of them use similar descriptions, but at the same time, each and every one of them is different in what they are saying. And when we hear them, or if we share something, we pick up on different things than somebody else might pick up on too. That's what's the cool part about even in the sharing of all that. But the part that everybody can agree on is that it is difficult to explain in words the enlightened moments and how we feel. It is much more powerful than words. Wouldn't you say that?
Yes.
Yes. And this is why we can't come together to define God. It's that simple. We all have these different experiences. I know I've heard from people before that their spiritual experience is going out in nature and, sitting on the boat, or going out in nature and sitting under the trees and camping out or whatever. Some say it's, sleeping late in the mornings. They don't want to get up. That's their time of meditation. I've heard people say cooking a big breakfast and having family over is their time of spiritual awakening or whatever. And some people say it's reading a book. Some people will be just sitting there in the quiet. Whatever it is, what you're experiencing is a spiritual experience. I will agree with that. And while all of these experiences are beautiful, renewing moments of life, and on some level they might even seem and feel spiritual, however, they are nothing if we cannot come together to share in the power of the energy which creates these opportunities. This is where we have to make the shift. We can have these opportunities. Near-death experiences have been around forever. I was in my 20s, and that's when I did the guy's hair that was a Wichita lineman, and he had a near-death experience. That was one of the first times I personally met somebody that had one. But that was a long time ago. But now they're becoming more and more popular because people are sharing their experiences. And when you share the experience, you come together and can rally together with like-minded people, and it makes a huge difference. That's what's cool about unity. I mean, we always, in unity, we always feel like we're on the brink of growing because there's so much that we wish that other people could hear and experience. You know, like that kid going to the doctor and the doctor saying, you won't ever be able to play your video games. We know that's hogwash. We know that if he set his mind to playing it, he'll be able to play it. Because we know how it works. And there's so many people ripe for those spiritual experiences to be able to say, hey, look at me, I've accomplished this, I've done this, because I didn't listen to anything negative. And it changes everything. And that's the power of spiritual community, of us coming together and being in this together and sharing our experiences. You know, if I had not have shared my experience 2 weeks ago, with my LUT class back then, you know, if you were here or if you were watching, you know, I was talking about feeling elevated after a prayer meditation time with my LUT class. But it was in that moment of sharing that to my classmates that I realized that I wanted to go to ministerial school. That it was like that experience led me to a higher calling, if you will. I felt like I was off the floor, so I was higher. But you know, if I wouldn't have shared it, I would have stopped the flow of the energy and the thoughts that were happening to me and the messages that I was receiving in that spiritual experience. I would have cut it off, and I wouldn't have ever taken myself to that probably for a long time, or might not ever. So we have to be prepared to be able to listen to those experiences and share those experiences, because the minute I shared what was happening to me, it was like the message rolled out. I mean, it could have been just a roll of paper coming out like this. The minute I was talking, I could just see this paper coming out saying, "Go to ministerial school," and you know, and it was in that experience of sharing. So that's why we all have to share. We have to be brave enough to feel like we can, so we don't block that energy flowing in those moments. The energy of God is meant to be shared, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we are here to share in that. We come together in prayer meditation. And you know, a lot of churches, and especially even unity churches, that prayer meditation time is the only time they actually are coming together in like-mindedness. Where really, we should make it the whole service. We should make it the song. We should make it the offering time, the prayer time. And here we do. I think we do. I think we do a good job with all of that. And that's what we want to do. We want to continue to share in those opportunities and find ways to share together. You know, we can sit down in nature and we can take photos of it. We can paint pictures of it. We can draw sketches about it. We can sit there and just take it all in. But if we're not bringing it into full expression by sharing our experience, it's not the same thing. You know, we fall short of our destiny. I know Lynn and Kat, they go out horseback riding all the time, and the cool thing is they post those pictures. And you can see, that's the good thing about Facebook, I think, is when people share their experiences, because you can see in those pictures that they're feeling serene, that they're feeling like they're in a space where they are feeling comfortable and relaxed and moving. You know, I've seen a couple of hunting pictures from Jim, same kind of thing. I mean, we all have those moments where we are in doing something that lifts us to a higher situation. I know for Sandy, it's the girls, being involved with them. But trying to define something into words sometimes, a feeling that you're having or that sensation, can be difficult, because it's more than just telling a story, isn't it? It is sharing the experience, and the only way to do that is to come together with like-minded people in a safe environment where we feel safe to share beyond words the power we are feeling. And it's in those moments where we continue to build an environment that people feel safe. You know, since we've been here, in the other building, and really it took a while here, but I feel like we had the feeling going again. But over there, people would walk in and just say, "Oh, it feels so good in here. It just feels so prayed up, so spiritual," whatever they would call it. You know, it was the energy that we created. And yeah, when we first came here, it was hard to feel that at first because, you know, it was a new space. But we prayed it, and I've saged it. We've done different things. I do believe in that. But the other thing was, I mean, I walked all through the halls saging it. And that was back when there was probably only 4 or 5 businesses up here. And now the whole thing's almost full, I think. And I do think that the energy that we put into this building helps everybody else. I know it. And that's what we have to do, expand that energy out into the world and make a difference in everything we do. But I know that these experiences that we have can be scary to share too. I know sometimes you some of the stories I've had in my life, if I would have told them to certain people at that particular time, like feeling elevated in a prayer and meditation, I would have gone back to the salon and shared that with anybody. Do you know what I mean? Because they would have thought I was nutty. But I could share it to my group, my classmates, and I could share it to some of the people at Unity of Wichita, and of course wherever more, and I could share it too. But I'm just saying, there are times when you feel like, oh, I can't share that because they'll think I'm nuts. They'll lock me up in the mental institution or call 911 or something, But we have to know that there are people that we can feel safe with, that we can share anything with and feel comfortable. And that's here at Unity, I believe. I believe it truly is. Because we know whatever is going on with us, whatever is happening, whatever spiritual experience we are having, we know that it's a God thing. And when we know that, then we don't have to be fearful or feel like, somebody's going to judge us or whatever. Last week Reverend Warren was talking about seeing angels, guardians, guardian angels, or some people call it shadows or ghosts. And afterwards, people were sharing some of their experiences and stuff. And that opened up a doorway, a portal for people to feel comfortable, be okay with mentioning something like that. But if you tell some people that, they all look at you like, what? What, do you believe in ghosts? Like what? You're not supposed to? But everybody, I think, at some point has had some kind of experience where they felt like an entity of some kind, or felt like somebody was there or whatever. And we have to know that it's okay to share those. But we know that there is energy in everything. We do, as a Unity person, we know God is in everything, and that energy is God. Yehovah, I create existence. So everything is just energy forming whatever it's forming each of us, forming the chairs, forming the floor. It's energy, and we all are energy, and we can feel that energy. Reverend Moore was talking about that too, about the 4th dimension, And I have had this really experience that happened a long, long time ago, and I want to share it today. But this was a long time ago when I was in the middle of divorcing my ex-husband, and my mom made her transition. And so I got the call so I was kind of in a bad place anyway, and I'll admit this, and it's just a fact, don't judge me, but I did smoke cigarettes at the time because I was stressed out and I was smoking. And so I got the call that my mom was gone. And so I was in my bed sobbing, and I finally, used up all the Kleenexes, and I went in the bathroom and got a hand towel and was crying into the hand towel, and I lit a cigarette. And I was sitting there smoking, and then I fell asleep. And I had an ashtray sitting on my bed, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I felt the energy, and somebody was in my room. I could feel it. And I started to look around, and then all of a sudden I remembered I had that cigarette burning, and I looked at my hands, and my hands weren't burnt. I looked at my hair. It was longer than that. It was probably down here. I looked at my hair. My hair wasn't burnt. I was like, where is that cigarette? And I looked in the ashtray, it wasn't there. And I was like, whoa. And so I looked on the side of my bed, and there was the cigarette, but there was no ashes there. But it wasn't burning, it was out. And so I picked up the cigarette and put it in the ashtray, And I was like, wow, what is happening here? And then all of a sudden I felt the energy again. And I thought, oh, I realized who it was. It was my mom. And it was like so heartwarming in that moment, but yet kind of scary. And then I picked up the towel to start crying again because I knew she was right there with me, telling me it was okay, and that she was okay and she was free. She drank herself to death, so it was a horrible way to go. But anyway, I picked up the towel, and there was this little black stuff that fell. And this is the towel that I had, that I was crying in, and this part had all crumbled into black. And I was like, oh wow, you put out the cigarette. And it didn't burn anything but that, it smothered it out. And I was like, wow. So of course I kept the towel. And it reminds me all the time that we never really know, who's there for us or why they're there for us. And that we have to be open and receptive to receive that help and that energy wherever we are, whatever we're doing. And I think I started thinking about this from us sharing about these different experiences, but also for the fact that my brother, just made his transition in the same way my mom did. And it brought up that idea of you never know where that energy will come forth and be there to help you. And it is that pure energy of God, because once we die, we're back to being that pure energy of God. Nothing that has happened in our life will be there. I mean, as far as anything negative or anything that has held us back from experiencing that all the time. And we have the opportunity all the time to negate anything that we've done in life or any negative thought. And I've really been focusing on that lately, just crossing out any little negative thought that comes up, just cross it out from the get-go and go back to that pure energy of God that we are, because it makes a huge difference. And I know other people have had these experiences, and we have to feel safe enough to share them and to grow with them together, because there's always a message there for us. And I believe in calling forth, here we go. I believe we can call forth our guardian angels. I believe we can call forth people to help us. And anytime we're having anything at all we have to do is allow that spirit to come forth. Because the minute we ask God, we're opening up a portal to allow our guardian angels to come forth and say, hey, I'm here for you. Or, this is what I feel about you. Or just to hug you. I mean, that feeling that we get that feels like energy. I've got that going on right now, believe it or not. Hugging me, it's like, wow, you can feel it and know it, and we have to accept that. We can ask them for guidance and direction, and that's what God wants us to do. God wants us to ask and then be ready to receive. And as we ask, we'll tap into that flow of energy instead of blocking it. We will be tapping into that flow of energy that is there, that has always been there and moving in and through us, and that can help us find more spiritual experiences that light us up, that send us where we need to be. And like Moses, when he asked God, who are you? We can know the answer is, I am that I am. Thank you for being here today. God bless you.